Welcome. This is the Scarlet and Rage podcast. I am Michael, the voice of reason. This is my co-host, Jay, the voice of rage. And we're actually on time tonight, guys. I think this is one of the first times in history that we have been on time at 9:30. New season, new punctuality by the Scarlet and Rage podcast. But we're excited about the episode. We only get to do this once a year, season preview. Hope to have more joining here. Got 5 of you in so far. Looking forward to the season starting. More viewers, more watchers, more interactions. Should be a lot of fun. We're going to kick it off tonight. Tonight, this is the first, we'll say, regular season episode. And from here on out, we're talking about in-season Buckeye football. No more of the off-season. Everybody's had all they can take of the off-season. I've had all I can take of the off-season. I know Rage has had all he can take of the off-season. And I think the viewers have had all of that as well. But the season is here. Rage, I hope you're doing well tonight. I'm doing pretty well. I told you about this on the phone earlier. Like an idiot, late in life, I bought the hype of the nicotine packets. You've seen me pop them here on this show. And I thought, oh, they're all good, whatever. Well, I've been reading. They actually can have a decent amount of negative health impacts. So I got myself addicted to them, and now I'm quitting. This is day 2. Day 2 kind of sucked. It was worse than day 1 for sure. I'm hoping day 3 will be better. But just be a bump on the radar, and then those things will be gone and behind me. But yeah, not very pleasant. Don't start the nicotine packets if you don't already have a nicotine addiction. That's what I did. And now I'm addicted to them for no reason. And they've got bad health consequences. And I'm having to go through the consequences of it. So
did you used to chew tobacco then, or
just when I was young? I did chew tobacco, playing baseball, from about 19 to 21 years old. I had a mild addiction to it, but it wasn't too hard to quit. This is a little tougher.
I see. And you were dealing with crazy heat up there in Ohio. Is that right?
Yeah. It's been low to mid 90s a lot the past couple of weeks, and heat index is up in the mid and upper 90s several days out of the last couple of weeks. So yeah, it's been a hot spell.
Man, it's been nothing but rain down here in SEC country, man. Nothing but rain in the 70s. So we need some of your weather down here, because like I was texting you, I have not cut my grass in like 3.5 weeks because it's just been too wet. I can't cut my freaking grass, man. And it's frustrating. Michael, we have so much material to go over for this show because, we're bringing it. But I have an off-topic question for you, man. Very, very, very off topic.
Okay.
Do you believe in witchcraft or witches? And I guess the supernatural. Do you believe in any of that stuff?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Well, because the reason I ask is there's this movie that just came out, and I feel like it would behoove me to mention it. And I just couldn't miss the chance to at least, mention it on our show one time, because we're out of the off season now, and this is not usually stuff we talk about. But this movie kind of captivated me so much that I needed to mention it. And your sisters, actually, I saw they posted a video after I had watched it, and they said it was the best movie they saw in 2025. You know what movie that was?
No, what?
It was called Weapons. And I'm going to agree with them. That was the best horror movie I've seen in a very long time. Spoiler alert. If people have not seen the movie, maybe fast forward like a couple minutes if you're not watching this live, or mute for a moment. But in the movie, Michael, essentially what happens is these kids all disappear on a certain night at like 2:17 in the morning. They all get up out of bed and literally run out of their house, and then they're gone and never to be seen.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It was actually very creepy, man. Very, very creepy. There was all these investigations. No one could ever find anything.
Is this now? This is a true story you're saying, or this is just a movie?
It's not a true story.
Totally just.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just a movie. There was like some weird stuff about this being a true story. And I'm like, where in the F is this a true story at? Because I want to know, there's always like some truth to like, a lot of fiction though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, kids disappear all the time, which is really sad and scary. So yeah, be on, if you have young kids, I have to be on the lookout with them. But like just to spoil the movie, I don't think you're ever going to see this movie. This isn't your type of movie. I don't think.
I'm so busy right now, Jay. I don't.
Okay, so what ended up happening was there is like this, I don't know, ancient witch that descended upon this town and basically, captured this family. She had the ability to like, if she had something of yours, like something of your possession, like if she took your microphone, Michael, she could control you after she did her little spell thing.
Oh,
and
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. And she abducted these kids because she was able to get like all their belongings. And it was a really good movie. She basically used the kids and the family to basically give herself eternal life, I guess, type thing. That was the whole point of like her story, but we don't know much about her. But it was a really, really suspenseful build up to find out all of that. That was my point. No one had any idea that a freaking witch was doing this.
Well, Jay, I don't know that I believe in like ancient witches that are still alive, but I do believe in the supernatural, both like kind of dark and good. So, yeah, I mean, but I'm always down for a good story.
Well, producer Jeff says, I asked him if he believes in them, and he said yes. He says they are real. Anything pertaining, this is his words, anything pertaining to the occult is demonic. They are referred as principalities and powers of the air in the Bible.
That is true. Absolutely.
So yeah, man, that is, I mean, I've never run into this in everyday life, but
there are witches in the Bible. So if you're religious in any way and you adhere to like Christianity per se, then you have to believe in the supernatural because it's presented in the Bible like both ways. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is very true, man. Mm-hmm. So I guess we need to be on the lookout then, don't we?
Yeah.
So Michael, let's move on because we have so much to cover. And it's so crazy that it feels like yesterday that I was in Atlanta watching Ohio State beat Notre Dame to win the first 12-team college football playoff in the 2024-2025 season. In the last few days and literally just a little while ago, I started watching my DVR recording of game day, the pregame, and the game itself once again. Memories that will be ingrained forever. And I don't want to let go, Michael. I don't want to let go. It was just such an amazing moment. And, it's just like in a few weeks, like that season is not going to be forgotten, but it's been like we're now out of that phase and we have to move on to a new season and deal with it. And it's time to turn the page.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it does seem like just, like just, boy, time really goes fast as you get older, doesn't it? I mean, but we're not going to get into that. But yeah, I mean,
it's time stone, and
I wish I could find some of that supernatural power to like, turn back time or slow down time or just maybe slow down my own time. Forget all the other time. Just slow my time down. Slow my clock down. But yeah, it's flown up, and I enjoyed this national championship so much different than I did the previous two. And I don't want to get into that, but I really did. And this year, well, we're going to get into our expectations, but we should enjoy being national champions, Jay. That's something that doesn't come every year. We should enjoy it. Doesn't mean we can't criticize this season if something's there, but we should still be, to some extent, enjoying the fact that we are the defending national champions.
Yes, we are the defending national champions going into this year. We start, Michael, the coaches poll and AP poll came out. As you're aware, the coaches poll, we are number 2 behind number 1, Texas. And in the AP poll, which came out today, we are number 3 behind number 1, Texas, and number 2, Penn State. I have not done a deep dive into Texas and Penn State yet. A little bit more Texas because they're week 1. I don't really know much of anything about Penn State. All I know there is that they return a lot of people. So the writers and the preseason people still think that we're a very, very, very good team. And I agree. I basically just did a deep dive in Ohio State, and I completely agree. Michael, I guess we'll start with the head coach. Ryan Day returns as the head coach with a 70-10 overall record, with some semifinal wins mixed in there, as well as a national championship. I literally was just watching the national championship, and the statistic they put out there is Ryan Day is like fourth all time in winning percentage for coaches, all time. I think, fourth with 50 or more games. 50 or more games, he's fourth in winning percentage all time. So pretty amazing stat. Yes, he was big game Ryan Day for a while there, but he kind of squashed that, winning the national championship last year. Michael, anything to add about Ryan Day?
No, interesting story there, how he literally can't buy a big game win, and then all of the sudden, gets 4 of the biggest wins you can possibly get. So, I said it last year.
I would say 3 wins. I still don't consider Tennessee a big game.
Well, I'm just saying, since it's an elimination game and it's a playoff, but it wasn't like they were not like a bona fide top 5 kind of team or anything. But from there on out, the other 3, and to do it in a row. And I said last year, if he runs the table, all his sins are forgiven in my book. I'm not going to hold on to him. I'm not going to let him go. I'm not going to keep harping on him. And that's true. I'm not, because at the end of the day, if you told me Ryan Day's first 6 years, he's 70-10 with a national championship, I'd say, cool. That's awesome. That's exactly what we're expecting to follow up Urban Meyer with where he left the program.
You are meeting expectations now, Ryan, with that national championship and basically winning against 3 top 5 teams in a row. I believe he still has a losing record against top 5 teams, but he does. That helps a lot. That helps a lot to get you back on the right path, and having a national championship, a semifinal win. He has a national championship appearance. Let's not forget that. He did beat Clemson in 2020. So moving on, offensive coordinator has changed, Michael, as Brian Hartline returns as the offensive coordinator, moving on from the wide receiver coach and moving up to offensive coordinator. This is really the first time we are going to see what he's capable of, because Ryan Day was still calling the plays in 2023. Losing Chip Kelly was massive. Just no way else to slice it. Chip Kelly, in my opinion, not only was just a play caller, but he was the one who molded the offensive line last season to play as well as they did and win a national championship. I know a lot of people are sucking off Justin Fry still. They are fucking ignorant fucks that just don't know football. Justin Fry, good fucking riddance. He was trash. But Chip Kelly was the conductor behind that locomotive, man. And it is a huge loss there. But hopefully Brian Hartline can, hopefully he learned something under Chip.
Well, and I'll say this. I hope he did, because there was a big improvement in wide receiver blocking last year. And I don't think that's because of Brian Hartline, because Brian Hartline had been there all the previous years when the wide receivers did not block very well. I think it was because of Chip Kelly. And so that's a concern. I hope that Brian took that from Chip and is going to continue to go with it, now that Chip's gone. I hate it that Chip's gone. I was certainly hoping he would be back for another year. I'm not near as confident in Hartline, but hey, it's his chance. It's time for him to put up or shut up. This is round number 2. Either you can do it now, or you're just not an offensive coordinator, Brian.
Yeah, and you do worry if he fails as the offensive coordinator again, in Ohio State demotes him again, because they're never going to fire him. You need his recruiting, but does he take another job as offensive coordinator at Purdue or something, and then try and mold himself? And then it's now you lose that ace recruiter, which would suck. But I think Ohio State would survive, but recruiting would take a step back. Defensively, we lose Jim Knowles. And Michael, in my opinion, I was a huge Knowles critic. I'm still a new Knowles critic. I don't think that was a great pickup for Penn State. No loss there. The hot subject here, though, Michael, is did we find somebody better than him? It's too early to tell. I was very critical of Knowles' lack of blitzing and soft coverages. And Matt Patricia is kind of a similar mold, but he kind of runs more, 3 down defensive linemen, not 4. He seems to have blitzed less, from what I understand, as time has gone on, which is just no bueno for me with the athletes Ohio State possesses. I need to see blitzing to show off these corners and see what they can do. I don't like a bend but not break defense. I like a no break at all. Like I want to see no bend at all. I want to see an iron wall, a steel curtain like the Steelers, I guess, from the 80s. Isn't that what their nickname was? I want to see a line drawn in the sand at the 25-yard line and no yards given up, negative plays, sacks, turnovers. And then if we get up by 5 touchdowns, then you call the dogs off. But I want to see constant chaos out of a defense. And I'm not sure that he's the guy to call a defense like that.
I'll say this, I think Knowles was a good defensive corner. I don't think he was great. I think he was, I think he was limited in some areas. I like that Patricia is not just a pure system guy. Knowles had a very specific system that he wanted to run. He had to throw a couple of things from that, at least one thing from that system out, the jack, the jack position. Like that just never worked. We didn't recruit for that and it just never worked. And it's like, it took him a little while to, I don't know, figure out what he wanted to do without that. And it seems like there was some tension, but I don't hate Knowles. I don't care that he's gone. I'm not that upset about that. As a very talented defense he had last year, so it should have been a good defense. I am optimistic that Patricia is much wider in his flexibility and things that he can and will do with the defense because of all of the time he spent with Bill Belichick. And I sit and listen to him kind of explain that one time for about 15 or 20 minutes, how there is no set system that they ran with Belichick. There's a breadth of knowledge and options and things that you can do based upon the personnel you have. And so that gives me some optimism, and I hope that he's the guy for the job.
I have a question for you, Michael, because you're much more NFL, but I mean, who was calling those defenses? Was it Belichick or was it Patricia?
It was mostly Patricia. Now, okay. Belichick's fingerprints were definitely on it, in that Belichick was like the guy there drilling in them the knowledge base, So, I mean, Patricia got his knowledge base from Bill Belichick for sure, or at least Belichick was partly responsible for that. But, once he kind of once he felt comfortable with the guy, for the most part, the guy, he called the game. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I have no doubt that he's going to be, he's going to have different schemes and everything. I just need to see the aggressiveness. I need to see more than 4 guys coming after the quarterback, and I need to see more run blitzes. And again, I don't care what kind of fronts he has. I just need to see aggression. I mean, that's my biggest thing. And, we're not going to know until we know. Nobody knows outside of Ryan Day and him and the players. So I guess, to add on, Michael, just a little caveat here. Ohio State is one of 2 teams that got an extra, I believe it was about 7 practices. And the only other team who got that is Notre Dame. How big is that for our true freshmen and backups last season to get to rep with a team that was about to win a national championship? That just cannot be discounted. And I believe these players are hungry. This isn't 2003 or 2015 where both teams had a lot of players coming back. Mm-hmm. And they should have repeated, mm-hmm. and weren't as hungry, I guess, should I add on to that? So I think this is kind of a unique position where I think, a lot of people's expectations for Ohio State this season may not be as high because we lost so much, but we're not going to have that same malaise that we experienced in 2003 and 2015 because of the lack of familiarity and a bunch of hungry players just ready to ball, man. I mean, there's nothing else to be said. These kids are ready to ball. I've listened to a few of them talk, and they're ready to get after it, man. So that it gives a unique perspective for me and you, because, you know, like I said, the last two title teams had a lot of players coming back for the next year.
Yeah, you're right. And so I definitely think that both title defense following seasons were a little bit of a disappointment. I was talking about that the other day. The 11-2, you know, with the team, it did end up with the win against Kansas State in a you know, Fiesta Bowl, I think it was, back in 2003. And then, of course, we know, you know, what happened with the 15 team. They just offensive coordinator, big mistake, you know, staying in-house with you know, and adding Beck, I think, from Nebraska as co-OCs, Warner and Beck as co-OCs. Big mistake. Team didn't live up to its potential, and, you know, got angry at the end and destroyed Michigan and beat a pretty good Notre Dame team, but not what it should have been. Yeah, you're right. This team, even though it's ranked second and third respectively in different polls, I don't think there's anybody who's saying they're a favorite to win a national championship. They expect them to win you know, nothing like that. But you know, as we get into this, I really do. I'm not going to say something stupid like, well, this team's going to be better than last year, or that they're going to be more talented or more experienced or anything like that. But I think that they could be better in a lot of areas. I really do think they could be better in a lot of areas. So.
Well, that's interesting you say all that, Michael, because we're going to start with the offense. And from a bird's eye view, I'm just being real. I think they have a higher ceiling than last season, man.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is as long as Brian Hartline uses these guys correctly. But let's just start at the quarterback position. And if people haven't watched a season preview in the past, we go position by position. We will do this with the teams we preview. And this will be the only time all season that we do position by position for Ohio State, because when we move on, we're mostly going to be breaking down the games and what we see and what happened. So the quarterback position, Michael, I know there is a battle, you know, with the quarterback position right now with Julian Sayin. But Julian Sayin and Kienholz, but, you know, Julian Sayin is a guy, the number one overall QB in the 2024 class and former Elite 11 winner from Carlsbad, California. You know, he's got it all. I know we saw him in the spring game, saw a tiny bit of him last season, but he's got it all from a throw motion and accuracy standpoint. You know, I'm not sure about his arm strength. We haven't really seen it. You know, he is small, and Kienholz is, you know, at 6'3", is definitely the bigger and stronger athlete, and there may be room for some packaging with Kienholz down the line. The only problem is if you do that, it's pretty obvious what the offense is going to do. But I will say this, Julian Sayin can run, and he's very good at selling the read option and passing off the read option. You know, I saw a few of those plays last season. I literally just watched a couple of his highlights. He's really good at drawing the defense in on the extended play action, read option, and just, you know, dumping it over the middle or on a cross route. The guy is, you know, it's a beautiful throw. It really is. He has got a great release, but he's only 6 feet tall. You're on mute.
He's got an extremely quick release. And, you know, if you know how to manipulate the pocket, if you know how to move the pocket, you know, 6 feet is no problem anymore. I mean, it was 20 years ago, it was a problem. The way guys move now in the passing lanes, you know, 6 foot's okay. Drew Brees was not even a great athlete. He ran a 5.040 out of college, but he learned to manipulate the pocket, and 6 foot, you know, was good enough for, you know, 75,000 yards. So I'm not worried about his size. Kienholz is a bigger, probably even better athlete. Not that Sayin is not a good athlete, but Kienholz is an exceptional athlete for quarterback with a 40-inch vertical thereabouts. Probably around a 4.5 40, I would guess, you know, with that 40-inch vertical. I don't know what Sayin is. I you know, he's quick. I doubt he's any slower than a 4.7. You know, he moves well, and his release is I'm not being hyperbolic when I say it's close to Tom Brady at his prime. Like it's that quick. He has a very quick release. And so I see a very high ceiling with that. And he's also cerebral from what I've seen. I can't really comment on Kienholz because I just haven't seen a lot from him. You know, we saw that disastrous Sugar Bowl. I can't really, draw a whole lot from that. So I don't know where he's at in his development. We just have to, take the coach's word for it. But obviously everybody thinks that Sayan is winning this job.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I find it interesting that a lot of podcasts are coming out now saying, oh, yeah, it's just, Sayan is a guy, blah, blah, blah. And, I mean, like everyone's known it for a long time that Sayan is the guy. That's interesting. You say his release is similar to Tom Brady. Everyone in the chat, I will say, the direct comparison that, I think that you can make with Julian Sayan, I would probably say Baker Mayfield. And maybe a little bit better running Baker Mayfield. Same size, same very quick release. Again, I don't know what his arm strength is, but, people laugh. Baker Mayfield was a Heisman winner and a great college quarterback. And he's actually a pretty solid NFL quarterback, too. He just played for a shitty Cleveland Browns organization.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, he's had a resurgence in Tampa Bay. He's a good quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, if Julian Sayan was Baker Mayfield, basically I would take that. I mean, Baker Mayfield was good enough to win a national championship, probably, if he had a little better defense. They gave up 50 something points to Georgia in the national champion or in the semifinal in the Rose Bowl that year in overtime. They were right there. And it wasn't Baker, Baker. We as Ohio State fans know well that Baker could light you up because he sure did us in the shoe that evening.
Yeah, I was there. And off topic, I don't actually think, Oklahoma's defense played awful that game, no doubt about it. But I still to this day blame the offensive play calling by Oklahoma because their defense got some key stops against Georgia late in that game and their offense didn't do anything with it. Supposedly Baker got hurt and they couldn't be as aggressive anymore as they were in the first half. I don't know. But once Georgia just started blitzing like 6 on every play, it became a lot harder for Oklahoma, and they needed to be doing more quick screens and downfield throws, and they got away from it. And Lincoln pissed down his leg. Nothing else to be said. At the running back position, Michael, we are taking a step back here. But as big of a step back, but not as big of a step back, should I say, as I was first led to believe. So we all know about Sam Williams-Dixon from Pickerington, Ohio. Actually, I don't think he's actually from Pickerington. I think he transferred from New London. So, and James Peoples. We know about James Peoples from Texas. But the transfer from West by God, Virginia, Michael, C.J. Donaldson from Miami, Florida. Michael, I started to look at this guy more, and he is not only a mature player age-wise, but he's mature reps-wise. He started a few games as a true freshman for West Virginia in 2022 and did very well. I understand that that's against the Big 12, but it's not like it's the MAC either. The Big 12 is not a bad football conference. It's not the ACC bad, I can tell you that. Jake Butt, who is probably the best analyst on Big Ten Network right now, in my opinion, compared him to Carlos Hyde. And I agree there. He is not a burner, but he's longer than Carlos with a bigger stride and equal power. To be honest, Michael, I don't know how he is not the starting back. I like Peoples and Sam Williams-Dixon. They are both, quick, fast guys. But this guy should be getting the bulk of the carries purely based on his size and his physiology to take punishment. Now, he's actually slimmed down some from what I understand. He is not like 230-ish pounds. He's down to like 220. So maybe, just maybe, he could be a step faster because of that. Anything else to add about the running back position?
No, I mean, he had good speed, in my opinion, for his size. Maybe his speed's a half step better, a little better now that he's slimmed down a little bit, but he's bigger than either of the guys we had last year. Trey's 210, 215. Judkins is not more than 215. And so, I'll give, as far as like last year's team quarterback, I think the ceiling is higher this year than it was last year. I think Will Howard did a great job, but I think the ceiling's higher. Running back, opposite, it's going to be a step back, but that's okay based upon the big picture of everything else that the offense has in place.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just really excited for him, man. Just started watching more highlights on him, and I was like, our running backs are going to be kind of a weak point, but I don't think so anymore, man. And, in the chat, people are trying to say, Bo Jackson is going to be the future. I don't know. I mean, I think he's a true freshman. I'm not going to put that on a true freshman. Ohio high school football is not very good either.
Yeah. Didn't hear this, but Slip and Skippy tells us that Feinbaum says he's going to leave the country if the Big Ten wins another natty. Well, good. Of course he will not, but
not going to hold my breath on that one.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to leave the country, but I do hope the Big Ten wins another natty.
Yeah, that would be great. And it would be great if we did it. Michael, moving on to the wide receiver position, you know who they are. Let's be real. We know who these guys are. Best wide receiver core in America, and it is not close. Jeremiah fucking Smith. And I think that's what we should just say. Jeremiah fucking Smith. He will not win the Heisman. He's probably not even going to win the Biletnikoff. But the Chaminade Madonna product is the best wide receiver in the nation and possibly the best player in the nation. Carnell Tate, the ultimate possession wide receiver, but the name we need to keep an eye on is Mylan Graham. He was a late bloomer for the program, considering he did not play last season due to enrolling in August, which is considered a late enrollee when everyone used to enroll in August back in the day. But he reminds me, Michael, and I kid you not, Mylan Graham from Indiana reminds me of Santonio Holmes. He's got all the tools, and he's a legit burner speed. He's not like an elite length size wise, but I think he's got damn near elite speed though, and everything else.
Yeah. Wide receiver room's obviously going to be, great. Smith, Ennis, good grief. Who's the number two?
Tate.
Yeah. Smith, Ennis, Tate, great room.
I didn't even mention Ennis. Like, he's another kind of possession slot guy. I kind of got my hopes up for Ennis. I used to think he was the next Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's not.
Ennis is a guy that can be dangerous when Tate and Smith are covered. I guess that's really all you need. I mean, he's a guy who can get open. He's got a little shake. I remember I told you some years back, I didn't see the speed out of him in the high school tape that I saw for him to be this 5-star elite receiver. I think he's a good receiver. I think he's a solid receiver. There's obviously loads of talent in that room, and that's not going to be an issue. That is going to be higher ceiling this year than it was last year. So now we've got two position groups, quarterback and receiver, out of the three we've covered, that I think have a higher ceiling than they did last year.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't really say that about quarterback. I agree on wide receiver. Another name that we need to not forget about is going to be true freshman Quincy Porter from Bergen Catholic. He's the guy who lit up Massillon, Washington last season on their home field. They couldn't cover him. He's another big receiver, 6'4", 210 pounds, got good speed, got great length, size, Ohio State hasn't recruited a lot of like elite size at wide receiver lately, but if you have Jeremiah Smith at 6'3" and him at 6'4", now all of a sudden, and then Carnell Tate at like 6'2". I mean, I think he's listed as 6'3", but I believe he's more 6'2". That's elite size at the wide receiver position. So, moving on, the tight end position, Michael. And Michael, have you given much thought to the tight end position?
Because we improved there.
I will say this, man. I think they're the best group in America. I do.
Yeah.
Max Clare isn't spoken about enough, but he is a wide receiver out there in a tight end's body.
Oh, we're not Slip and Skippy.
Yeah. I can't remember the last time we had a tight end with his kind of receiving ability and speed. And, he's not small. I think he's like, at Ohio State, he's listed at like 6'5". I don't know if that's true. I believe he's like 6'4", which is still not, he's bigger than G. Scott. I mean, G. Scott was like 6'2", So, when Jelani Thurman, who is a freak of nature in terms of size and traits, is your number 3 tight end, you're set there. And like the duo of Thurman and Will Kaczmarek lined up on both ends off the tackle on power run is just going to fucking bulldoze people. 2 tight ends that are 6'6", 260 pounds. They are going to fuck people up on the goal line, Michael. They are really going to fuck people up from a power blocking standpoint. And then Max Clare, get him on a linebacker. I don't see anyone fucking covering him, man. Not with our wide receivers out there.
No, I mean, can you have too many weapons? Is that a possibility?
I don't know. I tell you what, Julian Sand is everything we hope he's going to be, and they're spreading the talent around.
I mean, he's got a crazy amount of weapons between wide receiver, this tight end group. Yeah, I mean, it's there shouldn't be any problem on offense. I'm excited to see how Ryan Day can incorporate the tight ends. A couple of years ago, Cade Stover, got to shine a little bit more than tight ends had in the past at Ohio State. And so I'm hoping that him and that Day and Hartline obviously have got to be making it a priority to get this guy involved. I can't see scenarios where Claire is not wide open at times during the game. I mean, with everything else the defense has to worry about in the wide receiving corps.
The guy is a great receiver, man. I think he's from the Cincinnati area originally, I believe. I think so. Yeah. He came back home to Ohio. I don't know where in Ohio he's from. I think he was from Cincinnati, but yeah, he's another one of those guys who came back home after he had a couple years of development at Purdue. So Michael, moving on to the offensive line position here. And, for this show, I did some real digging, and it took me a while to write these notes. Usually it doesn't take me as much time. It's all in here. Mm-hmm. But, for an episode like this, I have to really bring it. Mm-hmm. I did some digging here on our offensive line. And outside of, for sure, Texas A&M, just no doubt for them, and maybe Alabama, this is the biggest offensive line in America. Bigger overall line than we had in 2022. And I know we had DeJuan Jones and Paris, but overall, they're a little bigger than that year. And a similar size to 2018 when we were playing all tackles and elite length everywhere. Just, your initial thoughts on just the size of this line and any thoughts at all?
Well, my initial thoughts on this line are, we lost Donovan Jackson, who was a good player. But I think that this line, because of kind of the way that it, congealed towards the end of the season last year, without, McLaughlin at center, and so as much as it hurt to lose McLaughlin, Seth, it was almost a positive for the team from the team perspective. I would never say it's a positive for a guy that tears ACL. It's awful for him to go through that. But from the team perspective, getting the guys that are going to be in there next year in early for the last 4 games and all of those practices, was a big plus. And from what I saw, I truly think, and I am not a, I'm just not a fan of Fry. I don't think that I don't know what kind of coach he was. I don't care. He wasn't a good recruiter. He was a terrible recruiter. He was always having to get bailed out of the transfer portal. Maybe he was an okay coach. I don't know, but I don't think he was like such an exceptional coach that we're going to, it's going to be a big loss. And so I really think that this offensive line can be better than last year's offensive line. I think that that running back is the only unit on offense that can't be better than the offense last year. And that's saying something. It really is.
Ethan Onionwa, the transfer from Rice, who after today, there are rumblings that he's not going to start. But really? I believe he does. Yeah, I don't know if Philip Daniels is coming on. I guess Austin Sierreveld, but it looks like he's going to struggle with elite or maybe not even elite, with speed rushers. He's going to struggle there. But, you know, if you, at 6'7", 300, you know, those 6'7", 340-pound offensive tackles just don't grow on trees, Michael. And outside of him, you know, 3 starters return on the interior. One of them being your boy, Tegra Tshabola.
Shabola.
God, I keep fucking it up. Damn it. I was like ready to fucking like get that right, but motherfucker.
From Lakota here in Cincinnati.
Yeah, from Lakota West. And he is a massive fucking guard, Michael. 6'6", 320 pounds. So you have him. You know, this team goes legit like 7 to 8 deep on the line. It's the most depth, like really like starter level depth we've had in a while. This is a top 5 line in America. And yeah, Donovan Jackson was better than all of them, but I believe like 2 through 5 could be better than last season.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, because you remember we went over half of the season without Simmons as well. So, I mean, Simmons and Seth.
Right. Oh, yeah. I forgot about Josh Simmons. So, yeah, maybe not as good as both of them, but I believe the interior with another year. Carson Hinsman was great. He kind of like, you know, he came in from, I think he took over at offensive guard for Donovan Jackson when Donovan Jackson pushed outside, and he did great. He did great at center.
And I mean, effectively, Simmons doesn't matter because we played the whole second half of the season and the entire playoffs without him anyhow. So,
and he's still a first-round pick.
Yeah, still was a first-round pick.
So yeah, very excited about the offensive line, man. Now
we got a comment here that kind of leads us into defense. I'm hoping we don't repeat 2021. So much talent on that offense, but the defense was whack. All right, well let's get into this defense.
Yeah, let's get into the defense. So from a bird's eye view, Michael, there's one thing that really sticks out about this defense. And what sticks out to me from a bird's eye view overall, and we're going to get into position by position, but the length everywhere, from the defensive ends to the linebackers to the secondary. It is the longest defense that we've had in a long time. Like, they're going to get their arms out there and bat some passes down. They're going to create chaos. But we'll start on the defensive line. The dreaded defensive line. We know how recruiting has been going there. It hasn't been going well for Ohio State standards. The amazing 2021 class is gone now. This is the weakest position on the defense. But Michael, when I look closer, it's not as bad as I once thought. You know, and I was telling you this over the phone the other day. There's a name I believe we need to know. And that name is Eric Mensah, the Stafford, Virginia prospect, just outside of the DC area. Actually came in bigger than I thought out of high school. He was 290 pounds out of high school and is now around 305 pounds. And from what I understand, he's been wrecking people in practice. As we all know, this is at the very least a top 5 offensive line in college football. So if he's doing super well against that interior, you know he's a player. And I haven't even mentioned Caden McDonald or Edric Houston yet. You know, go ahead.
Well, and just a couple of months ago, Mensah was slotted as a 4th stringer by most of the experts. So the fact that he's coming on the way he is fantastic news for this defensive line.
Absolutely. And he brings good size, not elite size, but, you know, Caden McDonald, I believe I was the first one to really hype him up, being a true nose tackle from the deep south. And Edric Houston, who I saw play in high school at Buford, Georgia, where I got married in. And Michael, I don't know if I ever showed this to you, and I should have posted it on here, but there's like a picture when he was playing high school football, and there's like the crowd right behind him. You know who's in the photo right behind him, like you can see?
No, who? You?
Me.
Ah, nice.
I was wearing my Ohio State shirt, and I was like behind him.
I remember when you went and watched him.
Yeah, I was like in the photo. Like, you can't miss me because I'm wearing like scarlet. So, with Edric, we love Edric Houston. I disagree with him being moved inside. He's just not naturally a defensive tackle body, and he's just going to struggle against bigger, powerful offensive lines like Texas and Michigan. But the emergence of Mensah makes me more hopeful there, as we all hope, Tywone Malone can be that, the 4th guy, which would give us like 3 legit 300-pounders on the inside, but only one guy over 320 pounds. And because I've said for a while in the offseason, you need at least 2 pure nose tackles, and Ohio State only has one. They had two last season, and that was a big reason why our goal line defense was so good. We only have one, so our season really hinges on Caden McDonald being a warrior.
Yeah, I think he is very good. Had some big moments last year. Go back to the Penn State goal line stand. Obviously in a championship season, like Al Pacino speech, any given Sunday, it's a game of inches. You add them all up. It's a game of inches. But you can say that without what Caden did again, that Penn State goal line stand, we may not win the national championship. He blew up one or two of those goal line plays. And I think I'm hopeful he's going to take the next step this year.
Absolutely. The defensive end position or edge, I guess you should talk about, CJ Hicks. I would be remiss if we didn't mention him. He seems to be like a hot topic, but he hasn't really accomplished anything in his college career. Finally made the transition to defensive end. And I know a lot of people are hoping that he'll have like some kind of Abdul Carter thing, but people need to understand Abdul Carter was an All-American linebacker before he got moved to edge. Like CJ Hicks was a backup linebacker and just was lost in the sauce. So I don't really know what to expect from him there, but I believe the starters, Michael, will be Bo Atkinson from nearby Raleigh, North Carolina, and Kenyatta Jackson. Mm-hmm. So one thing that sticks out between the both of them, they are both 6'6" monsters. And Bo, in my opinion, needs to start over Caden Curry to supplement the lack of girth in the middle. So, man, when is the last time Ohio State has had 2 6'6" guys on both sides? Like that's crazy, man. That is some serious size and length. Jack and JT, Jack was 6'5", and I thought he was really big. But you have two guys that are taller than him, and then I think JT was 6'4".
Yeah, I mean it is. That's some serious length on the edge. Atkinson, I don't know what to expect out of him. I mean, I know he had 7.5 or 8 sacks last year in the ACC. Obviously, the Big Ten's a bit better than the ACC, but he's also a year older, a year more experienced. So, I hope he's a 7 to 10 sack guy. Kenyatta, he's got some twitch. He's got some speed off of the edge. So, I mean, I don't think can say that, this group's going to be better than last year's, but I think that there's optimism that this group can be a very solid defensive line.
I'm going to call it. I think on third downs, if it's 3rd and 5 or more, I believe you're going to see Atkinson on the interior with, Edric and what other defensive tackle you want to throw in there. But then CJ Hicks is going to be on one side and Kenyatta Jackson on the other. And because Bo Atkinson, you're right. He had 7.5 sacks, but one thing that needs to be noted, like 3 of those sacks came against a terrible Florida State defensive line. I don't expect him to be that great of a pass rusher, but I do believe he's going to be a great run defender. And that's why he's got to start. He's just got the physical tools to be a great run defender and take over for Jack, where Jack was a great run defender for Ohio State. So you have to play him because of just the size, man. You just can't, size matters and physiology matters. So play the bigger players and roll with them. Feel bad for Caden Curry, where he's basically a true senior at this point and he hasn't started, but it's unfortunate that he's like a linebacker's body and he's trying to make it as a defensive end. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we've got some good size. It's amazing to me what, like, I'm 6'2", like I'm like 6'2 and a quarter, basically flat footed. And like, that's about 4 inches, right? Like, I don't know, something like that. Like that's close to 4 inches. It's amazing to me how a 6'6" guy looks giant to me. Like he looks so much taller than me. One of my best friends is 6'6", and so he's just 3 3/8 inches or so taller than me. And it seems like such an unbelievable difference. So yeah, 6'6" is 2 huge ends coming off the edge. So hopefully that'll come into play.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time we had that kind of length. And speaking of length, man. So Michael, let's go back in time a little bit. Let's go back to 1994. It seems from an athletic standpoint that the linebacker group in 1994, from what I understand, is really considered the most athletic core in history with Craig Powell, and Lorenzo Styles Sr. You know, I literally pulled up highlights of Styles Sr., and I guess he wasn't Styles Sr. until Styles Jr. because he was just known as Lorenzo Styles before.
Right.
And during a telecast, they said that he ran a 4.55 in 1994. Michael, there are rumblings that this linebacker unit for Ohio State this season may top that. And from an athletic perspective, I don't know that I disagree. And now the play on the field, I do disagree. But Alex Styles, you know, we all know Alex Sonny Styles just doesn't have like the football. I don't know if it's the football IQ. And while he is a freak athlete, he's slow on his anticipation and instincts. We've all seen it. Now, Arvell Reese, while he has flashed last season and is in the same mold, was a backup. And the best linebacker off last season's team, Cody Simon, is gone. Now, I will say, from a look test, it will be a spectacle to see them both standing together. Both 6'4", 230 pounds. Styles probably runs a legit 4.5 40. Arvell probably runs a 4.6, 4.7. Just the size, the length, and speed is something we just have not seen at Ohio State. I'm not sure we've seen anything like this in college football in a while since 2021 Georgia. 2 6'4" linebackers that are both running sub 4.7 40s. That is just unheard of. It really is.
Yeah. And I mean, Styles, I won't say much on this, but Styles, I did see development with him as the year went. So like game 8, I saw was better than game 1 or 2. I got a great view of Sonny Styles in the Marshall game. I wasn't impressed. I was like, the guy takes the wrong read. He takes the wrong first step too often. His speed does enable him to take a wrong first step and still tackle the guy for a 3 or 4 yard gain as opposed to a 5 or 6 yard gain, like a lot of guys. But I wasn't super impressed. As the year went on, I did see him improve in those areas. And so, I think he could be good this year. And I've always been a big Arvell Reese guy. I'm impressed with him. I think he's got great physicality. I think he's got good athleticism. And I think that he's got good football instincts. So I'm excited to see what he can do.
Isn't it, I've said this before, but it's just so great that Glenville is producing talent for us again. I mean, They are just producing like some really, really big time thoroughbreds, like, Arvell Reese, and now we have Sincere Johnson, and then we have Jameer Perez, the first true nose tackle in Ohio. And how long, I have no idea. And even the wide receiver, the name escapes me from Glenville. He's on our roster right now. I should know who he is. But again, like Glenville, thank you, Ted Ginn Sr. I just want to say, if you're watching our show, thank you so much. Some backup, Peyton Pierce is going to play, the linebacker from Texas. He doesn't have the same length as either one of them, but, from what I understand, I've heard he's a more athletic Tommy Eichenberg. And yeah, I had a lot of problems with Tommy Eichenberg, but if you're telling me we have a more athletic Tommy Eichenberg out there the same size, and Tommy Eichenberg actually had good size for a linebacker, 6'2", 220 pounds. I think that's really, really good size. And then you have, the backups, Riley Pettijohn, who's the other true freshman, Tarvos Alford, who I believe I saw in Atlanta, and I didn't realize it until after the fact. And he's huge. Like, he's listed at 6'2". I would believe he's 6'2", 6'3". That's pretty good size for a linebacker. Actually, very good size. It's not elite size that Arvell and Alex Styles have, but man, oh man, it's great to see like the size, length, and speed at Ohio State coming back at the linebacker position. Let me just say that.
Yeah, thank you, James Laurinaitis.
Thank you very much. So we have some good depth there, a lot of athletic depth. I guess we'll move into the secondary lastly, sir. You want to move into the secondary?
Yeah, let's do it.
So Caleb Downs, as we all know, is probably the best safety in America. Dante Whitner clone, Dante Whitner 2.0. I've said it before. Jermaine Matthews, your boy from Winton Woods, top 5 corner in America. In my opinion, best corner on last year's team. Denzel Burke finished his career strong. I'm not going to take that away from him. But up until the college football playoff, he was a major liability. So I do not think he was a big loss. I don't know where he got drafted in the NFL draft. What did he do? 4th or 5th round?
Say that again. Who are we talking about?
Denzel Burke. Do we know where he went in the NFL draft? I'm going to look it up right now.
Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. I think it was 5th or 6th round. I could be wrong.
5th round. Okay. So 5th round. And, again, a lot of teams would love to have, and I believe he saved his draft stock by the college football playoff because before the CFP, he was undrafted. Let me just point that out. He was
the performance he gave against Oregon. I mean, that was one of the worst performances that I've seen. What he did against Oregon.
Not just Oregon, his entire career just getting beat all the time, man.
Well, yeah, but Oregon was just like a spotlight. He gave up 8 or 9 catches for 180 yards. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah, I don't think he was a big loss. Lathan Ransom is a big loss in run support for sure. He wasn't a great cover guy either. Last year's defense, while it was very, very good. It wasn't an elite group, but, they really had a hard time stopping, I wouldn't say a hard time stopping the forward pass, but there was a weakness. They weren't great in man-to-man cover skills. Lathan Ransom being one of those guys. He just was, he's only 6 feet tall. He wasn't an elite athlete. He was a good athlete, but, it's not like he had a great length. I will say Malik Hartford has a higher ceiling here with a bigger frame and more length. He's a legit 6'2", maybe even 6'3". Davison Igbinosun is still the weak link, and a lot of people would love if he were their weak link, Michael. The guy,
absolutely.
The guy just has to turn around and find the ball and stop being so handsy because one of the top 3 players in the 2025 class and best corner in America, Devin Sanchez from the North Shore High School in Houston, Texas, is waiting in the wings. And man, he is massive. Michael, you saw I think you saw the picture I sent you of all the corners that I found online. Did you see that picture of them all standing together?
Yes, I did.
Did anything stand out to you about that?
Yeah, I mean, we've got some big corners. We've got some tall, lengthy corners.
Heck yeah, man. Davison Igbinosun is listed as 6'2", and the fact of the matter is
he's 6'2" and long,
Well, yeah, he's listed at 6'2", but so is Devin Sanchez. Mm-hmm. But what my whole point is, you see them right next to each other, and Devin Sanchez is a legit. No, he's taller than Igbinosun. He absolutely I don't know how he's not listed at 6'3". And what is the last time Ohio State has had a 6'3" corner, man?
I mean, when does anybody have a 6'3" corner? That's super rare, across the board. So yeah, I mean, maybe Igbinosun is actually 6'1¼ and Sanchez is 6'2¼ or something. I don't know. The NFL Combine tends to work that out. But regardless, there's a couple of big, lengthy corners, which is a huge plus.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. The length there, Aaron Scott was in that picture, and he's listed at 6 feet, and he hasn't really looked too big on the field. We know. I don't know that I really want to see him getting a lot of playing time because every time he's on the field, he's just getting beat and is in terrible coverage. Hopefully he's made some strides, but I will say he passes the look test now because, he's listed at 6 feet.
Does anything good come out of Springfield, Jay?
I don't know. I don't know. Is there some kind of what? Can you explain?
I don't know. I'm just asking you. I'm just joking about Springfield with the presidential debates and the cats and the dogs.
Oh yeah, the Haitian immigration thing going over there. I wonder if ICE has captured those people. By the way,
I don't know.
They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs.
I try to stay away from Springfield. It's not a place I desire to go.
Man, it's right there on 70, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. It's not, I think it's like smack dab in the middle of my mom and dad and you. I think it's right there in the middle, right?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I don't go that route very often. I stick to 71 and 75 on most of my travels. So yeah, I don't have really any reason to go to Springfield ever.
Yeah. Although I've never been to Springfield. I've never been to Dayton.
Well, I have been to both, but yeah. So anyhow, but yeah, we've got some good. We've got some good, and then of course you already mentioned Matthews. Matthews has had some playing time. He's, I think he's got a high ceiling to improve as he gets out there more and more now as a 3rd-year guy. So yeah, I'm very optimistic about our corners.
Yeah, no, Bryce West, man, that's a name that, is not spoken about enough. But in the little bit I saw of him last year, man, he passes the test, man. He's not, I think he's only 5'10", 5'11", but he made that play on Mike Matthews, the wide receiver from Tennessee, in the first round playoff game. And I'm like, wow, that was just a great play on the ball against a bigger wide receiver, a composite 5-star wide receiver, who, by the way, transferred away from Tennessee. And Tennessee just looks deplorable this season for their standards. And yeah, man, just we just went over like a lot of players. But Michael, do you agree the length and the size across the board at all three levels is just not something we have seen at Ohio State in a long, long time, if ever? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it is. So, I'm not saying this defense is going to be as good as last year's. What I'm saying is this defense, I believe, has the possibility to be very good. However good that is, like however it compares to last year, like whatever, I think that this defense has the possibility to be very good. I think this offense has the possibility to absolutely be better than last year's. And so I think this, obviously we're going to have a huge test coming to the Horseshoe week 1, and we'll cover that, as that gets closer. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing looking at this roster that we would say, oh my gosh, we don't have a chance to win a Big Ten and we don't have a chance to win a national championship. That's not the case. We absolutely have a chance to win the Big Ten and to potentially even repeat as national champions. I mean, as the season takes shape, nobody knows how it's going to take shape, but just looking on paper, we are still one of 3 teams to have, I can't remember the number, so I don't want to say because I might misquote it, but we are one of 3 teams in the country with as many blue chip players as we have. So we are still one of the top rosters in the country. And yeah, this could be a heck of a team.
Yeah. Jaden Fielding returns as our kicker. Solid kicker, not great. He's not one of Ohio State's all-time best, but, looking forward to that. The punter, I guess he's not going to be the starter, but I guess that guy, Nick McLarty from Australia, the starting punter probably he's from Australia too, but that Nick McLarty, like he's boomed some punts, man. I think his placement and stuff is really bad, or he'd be starting, but he's 6'7", 255 pounds, man. That is like the biggest punter ever.
That's incredible.
That is very incredible. And I've seen some of his videos, and I don't know if they're real or not, but he has like boomed these footballs like out of the freaking country, man. Well, I guess out of Australia if he's in Australia.
Yeah. Well, good. We need it. We need special teams.
I don't know that he's going to start, but yeah.
Well, we'll see.
Hopefully we're not punting too much, and hopefully we're not kicking field goals anyway. If you're relying too much on your punter and kicker, I find that to be a problem. Although Jim Tressel did say that the punt was the most important play in football, and he won a national championship in 2002. But as we all know, the game has evolved in the last 23 years.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can't be playing exactly like Tressel ball. But I cannot see that we're going to have to. This is a great offense, and it could be a really good defense. So
can you imagine go ahead.
I was just going to say a lot to be excited about this year.
Can you imagine what this show would be like if we had to deal with Tressel ball week in and out, and the freaking chaos that would occur on this show?
Oh boy. Yeah.
Ooh, I don't want to think about that.
Especially in today's, college football setting. Yeah.
And he was already falling behind the time. Well, I will say this. He did have, Jim Tressel, to his credit, did have kind of a resurgence with the 2009 and 2010 seasons. He started at the end of 2009. He started to throw the ball more. And then in the 2010 season, we actually did open it up again. And, Tressel was starting to build something again. And then he got it taken away. So just pointing that out there.
I agree. I mean, I think for Ohio State, it probably worked out perfect. I'm not saying Tressel couldn't have gotten there by 2014 or 2013, but I think it worked out perfect. We had a great coach for a decade. We had a great coach for 7 years, and we've had I'll say a really good coach that's had to learn a lot along the way for the last 6 years. So it's been a pretty wonderful.
And that was our biggest problem with Ryan Day is Ohio State's not the place to learn on the job.
Right. But thank God he learned. And
I didn't think he could, man. I was sold that he was never going to figure it out. But yeah, he did.
I was with you on that. So, but
hey, again, it's simple. We all know how Ryan Day fixed his problems. We know why, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Why?
He watched our show, of course.
That's right. Of course he did.
He watched this show. Ryan Day tuned in. He saw his biggest hater in the world, which is me. And he was like, this guy, even though I hate this motherfucker, he makes some sense. And he listened to me and you. And he was like, you know what? Let's do it for the Scarlet and Rage. Let's open up the passing game.
Naturally. That's what he did.
Of course that's what he did.
He said, I hear that there's a podcast that, so he listened to it and he said, that's what the team meeting was all about.
Of course, man. No one else held his feet to the fire like we did. I promise you. Nobody did. Right. Nobody did.
Right.
Michael,
you got anything else?
I don't have anything else. It was, we didn't really interact with the fans all that much. That's okay. We'll get to you in time. But again, it's going to be a fun season. We are 2.5 weeks away from me traveling to Ohio for game 1. As of now, I still plan on going to Seattle in late September for that Washington trip, as long as, Ryan Day and the team don't make me too upset. I plan on going to that. And yeah, man, this won't be a year where I'm flirting with skipping a home game, because I came so close last year, man. I came so close.
Sounds good. Well, we're going to be back full gear. This is the season. We're expecting, all of the listeners and supporters to jump back on as the season comes. We're hoping this is really this past offseason was really our first offseason, because our previous offseason got interrupted and didn't really happen. So we're obviously excited about the season coming back. People are going to be tuned into college football. We thank you guys for tuning in today. And that's it. That's all I got. I think we're out of here, unless you've got anything closing here, Jay.
No, I have nothing else to close, man. A lot of material, but again, there is a lot to cover. This team is going to be a lot of fun to watch. We will get into the Texas preview. I have some thoughts on that game right now, but I'm not going to reveal them. So other than that, I'll see you guys later.
Absolutely. All right. Later.